Welcome everyone to Esalen Live. I'm Christine Chen. So happy to have you as we chat with change agents, speak about transformation, and swim some deep waters. Today, our topic is: Are you plant-based or plant-forward? And joining me is a very special guest, Gena Hamshaw. She is the author of very many books. One of them is called Power Plates. This one here is her latest. She's also been a published food writer in Huffington Post, and more. She's a certified nutritionist specializing in plant-based eating patterns, and her Instagram handle, The Full Helping, is very popular. Gena, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Christine. It's really fun to be here.
Yeah, it's fun to have you. So I'm curious, you call yourself and you get behind being plant forward versus the more popular term plant based. What's the difference?
Oh, I don't actually. I call
Oh,
myself vegan. I call myself neither of those things. So I think my perception, I mean, I'm sure I've used the word plant forward, but I don't apply that. That's not the label I use for myself. I think the popular perception, and I could be wrong, but this is always how it hits me, is that plant forward are people who are sort of incorporating more plant-based foods and meals into their lifestyle, but not necessarily identifying 100% with being plant-based or with being vegan. And those two terms, I think, usually mean the same thing, but I think they usually imply a diet that is entirely plant-based, but I think they have sometimes different implications. But the word I use for myself is vegan with a capital V, and I've been vegan for about 14 years now.
does it, and apologies, I don't mean to label, I'm just trying to help understand because right now it feels like there's a spectrum of things in this category right now. You say vegan, but there's also people who call themselves vegan-ish. Does it matter?
Um, I think it I think it matters, but I think there are all great ways of self-identifying, if that makes sense. So when I say that I'm vegan, I don't eat any animal products of any kind, like including honey, like the whole spectrum, gelatin. Um, and I never consciously make exceptions to that. So I'm sure I've accidentally eaten non-vegan things in the past 14 years since I've been vegan, but I don't go out of my way to make exceptions. If I am aware that something has an animal product, I will not eat it. But the reason I use that word is because it also applies to my entire lifestyle. So I also don't purchase leather. I go out of my way to choose personal care items that don't contain animal products and haven't been tested on animals. I don't purchase wool. I don't purchase silk. So it's really, to me, vegan implies an entire sort of lifestyle or ethos around not commodifying animals in any way. And that's why I think it has like a particular meaning. So I think there's meaning embedded in it. But I think that being veganish is sort of a separate thing, which means that you're working to reduce your consumption of animal products, or you, for the most part, don't consume animal products, but you allow yourself some flexibility within your lifestyle depending on what feels right to you intuitively and sort of in accordance with your own spirit. And I think that that's also an awesome choice. I don't think they're the same exact thing, but I think they're, both great ways. And it truly depends on what feels right to the individual.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are just getting information and changing their lives based on this information. So there's the idea of being informed and adapting your lifestyle to this lifestyle that you've described so well. And then there's also coming at it from more compassion, and I know that's really important to you. Could you explain that a little to us?
Yeah, I think so. For me, the easiest way I actually am able to tell people why I'm vegan is that it sort of aligns with the principle of ahimsa for me, and just sort of trying to live life compassionately and with a sense of respect for other living beings. I think that how we each choose to express compassion in our lives is a deeply personal choice. And I think we find our way to something that resonates and feels right to us on our own. For me, veganism is part of my attempt to live compassionately. I don't think it's the beginning and the end of living compassionately. So, I mean, if I simply had a vegan lifestyle but was doing a lot of other things that were just compassionate to me, that would not be it's not like I could check the box on compassion by simply being vegan, but it's an extension of how I think I try to live, which is with a sense of understanding that a sense of compassion and respect for other living beings.
Yeah, and it's something that, those of us who are behind the Esalen way of living and embrace the Esalen way of life have been, kind of diving in these waters for quite a long time. But, not too long ago, this movie came out on Netflix, Game Changers. I'm sure you've heard of it. And then all of a sudden, there's this whole army of people calling themselves plant-based. Is this kind of the new wave for now that people have this information or they're just looking for a change? I mean, what are you seeing in all of this movement right now?
I think it's a wave for sure. And I actually think it's one that's going to have longevity. And I think that's really I think it's for two reasons. So I think one of them is, and the movie highlights this really well, there can be some incredible health benefits to eating a plant-based diet. It's, it's not necessarily like a cure-all, nothing is like, and it always takes each individual time and some practice to figure out what's worked for them with nutrition. But there are some great health benefits, and I think Game Changers really points to what those are. But I think the other thing that's happening is that many of us are starting to learn more about the impact that meat production has on the environment. And I think that because it is so urgent and important for us to look out for the planet at this moment in time in particular, I think that the plant based eating trend or wave will continue because I think it will continue to be a sustainable option and a way that people can eat with a little more eating lower on the food pyramid. I think is a way for people to kind of look out for the environment. And I think that we're all sort of thinking about ways these days about how we do
The other thing that I was thinking too, as you were saying all of that, is that one thing that hasn't changed is the idea of easy. Right now, especially because our home life and COVID life has gotten a lot complicated, very complicated, yet simple at the same time, if that makes any sense. Do you find that there's just no end to the requests for easy recipes?
that. That is what everyone wants, and I'll be honest, that's what I want. And I don't think that all of my recipes in the past have been easy. Like even when I read some of my cookbooks, sometimes there are recipes I look over and I'm like, I love this recipe, and I still make a lot of complicated recipes. But I'm also very aware of the fact that not all of them would work on like a random weeknight. Some of them involve quite a bit of prep work and quite a bit of time in the kitchen. And I think at this point, we've been home for a while. We've all been doing a little more cooking than usual, or many people have been.
Mhm.
So I think people are sort of burning out on it and they just really want stuff that's fast and convenient. And I agree. I think that's the kind of food that I'm gravitating to right now as well.
Well, I want to bring up your Instagram
Oh,
right now. I know it's so beautiful. And there's always such great content on here in terms of recipes. So I just wanted to roll through a couple of these. I'm going to skip over your adorable picture because we have adorable you. But I know that some of these are like your go-tos. Could you describe a couple of these?
yeah. So this was actually like a full-on recipe that I put on Instagram. A lot of the recipes on Instagram link back to my blog, but this one is right there, and it's just spice roasted cauliflower with a quick compote made with figs, and I served that over some cooked quinoa. It's delicious. I think this is the kind of food I eat a lot. I'll do grain bowls, and I often make that process easier and faster by cooking the grains in advance. I'll do that like on a Sunday or over a weekend. And then I have the grain base and I can just put different toppings on that. And that could be roasted vegetables that I've also made over the weekend or that I have left over for another recipe. It could be a cup of beans or some other plant protein. It could be some cubes of tofu, sort of whatever I've got lying in the fridge. So yeah,
Mm,
this is a great example of the kind of grain bowl that I eat often when I'm home.
delicious. I want to move on. There was another one that I was super in love with, Taco Tuesday. So that's really popular with individuals and families alike. Can you give us your take on this comfort? Is this your comfort food?
It's one of them. I love tacos. I eat plenty of them. I think my comfort foods tend to be more like casseroles and pasta, and like with lots of pasta is usually involved with like my ideal comfort food. But I do make a lot of tacos, mostly just because there's so many different things you can put in a taco or soft tortilla. And this is a recipe that I really enjoy. It's spiced lentils, so I saute them with some onion and some cumin and some other spices. Roasted carrots, which I think give it a really hearty and I would say even like a meatiness. Not there's no vegan meat or regular meat in this taco, but the carrots really do have like a substance that they give to the taco. And then, of course, some avocado slices for creaminess just because avocado is delicious.
I agree with you on the carrots. At Esalen, we pull carrots out of the ground, and they're the best tasting carrots. And they do feel like you're sinking your teeth into something in a taco like this. I would agree. And root vegetables right now in our cycle of fall is nice and grounding. I agree with you on that. I love a good banana muffin. There's another one I wanted to bring in, eggplant here. Tell me about this one.
So this is a stuffed eggplant recipe. It's basically just this is not a quick and easy recipe, but it's a fun one. It's you take the eggplants, you store them, you roast them, and then you take the filling and you saute it up with some bulgur wheat and a lot of different spices, and you do a tahini drizzle on top. And this is actually a great recipe for entertaining. I know most of us are not doing a lot of big gatherings right now, but in the times when we are, this is a good one for that. It's a great sort of family supper. It makes a lot of food. And if you are sort of thinking about ease and time saving, this is the kind of recipe, again, you can make it once. You can make it on a Sunday, and then you can have the leftovers for a bunch of nights. And then dinner is as easy as reheating something, which is, I'm always a big fan of using leftovers as a way of saving time.
I love it. I'm going to go back to the actual full page here. And I wanted to ask you about comfort foods and foods that carry nostalgia for you. My eye was drawn to the pasta, of course.
Of
Could we
course.
look at this? Does that count in that category of
Oh,
nostalgia and
I
comfort?
can.
Okay.
It's a stovetop mac. I just threw in some peas for just a little touch of green.
Tell me about this one.
So this is a great example of comfort food that I think I try to make accessible to eaters of all different styles these days. So this recipe is both vegan and gluten free, which means that again, with I think it's very common in this day and age for even within a single family for a bunch of family members to have different eating styles. Maybe one person is gluten free, another person is plant based, someone else is an omnivore. Mac and cheese is a recipe that just speaks comfort to so many of us. And what I love about it here is that you are making it accessible to lots of different types of eaters. This is a stovetop mac that I made with sort of a traditional stovetop Kraft mac and cheese in mind. And I use cashews as a creamy component and actually some white beans as well, which adds a little bit of additional creaminess. And then I throw in the peas just for a little bit of color. The recipe is on my website. It's one that I've made many times for just my own sense of nostalgia. My mom used to make mac and cheese a lot when
Oh, love it. Jenna, what led you to be living this kind of lifestyle? What were your primary influences?
I would say I always gravitated toward it to some degree. And I think it's funny sometimes we can often see the origins of our present day choices dating way back, but maybe we couldn't have seen the trajectory at any moment in time. But I stopped eating red meat when I was pretty young. I saw Bambi when I was a kid, and it just had an impact on me. And I stopped eating like most red meat at a very young age, but I kept eating chicken and fish. So I was not vegetarian growing up. And then I would say that when I was in college, I started leaning more in the vegetarian direction, but I was not yet fully vegetarian or vegan. And then I came to veganism in my mid 20s. And I would say that at the time it was a confluence of factors. It was the fact that I already wasn't really drawn to meat as a central protein on my plate. It really had never been my taste. And I was also really curious about the health benefits at the time. And I was curious about the benefits for animals and the environment. So it was a lot of things at once. I think the thing that has kept me vegan is animals and compassion and ethics. I think that's the thing that has like really kept me immersed in the lifestyle for all these many years. But I was certainly curious about lots of different things about living this way when I first became vegan.
Did you ever have doubts about this path?
I didn't know. Um, Becoming vegan is, I think, like one of the best decisions I've ever made, and also one of the easiest decisions I've ever made, which isn't to say it can't be a little difficult sometimes. Like sometimes when I travel or I, especially when I first went vegan, it wasn't as easy to like eat out in restaurants as it is nowadays. So nowadays you can go so many different restaurants and so many different eateries and grocery stores, and you can find plant-based options. But that wasn't necessarily true at first. So there were things about it that were kind of practical challenges, but my sense in my heart of it being the right choice for me was very clear. I had a lot of clarity around that from the very beginning, and that has stayed with me. It's never been a decision that I've second guessed for myself.
There are a lot of people in our community who are part of multi-generational households. And so the idea of this lifestyle, the way it used to be versus the way it is now, can you help us bridge those generations in this lane of veganism?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the cool and interesting things that's happening in the vegan and the plant-based world right now is that it is becoming so much more mainstream, right? And when I first became vegan, I think that there were some sort of distinct stereotypes of the people who were drawn to a vegan lifestyle. So there was the sort of hippie stereotype, which I used to hear all the time. Like when I became vegan, that was something people had mentioned to me. And there were just, I think, very set ideas about the kind of person who would gravitate towards eating a plant-based diet. But I think what's happening now is that so many people are becoming curious. And that's because of documentaries, like you said. It's because people are more conscious of the impact of the way they eat on the environment, and they're making different choices in accordance with that. And so it's becoming so much more expansive. And now I think what's happening is that I can never predict who's eating a plant-based diet. Like I would never necessarily know. And I meet plant-based eaters from every different type of culture, every age demographic, every background, regardless of what people ate in their families of origin, whether they were eating vegetarian foods when they were kids or they've, come to it much later in life. It's so amazing how many different people are exploring this way of eating now. And I think that kind of expansiveness is new, and it's really exciting for me. And of course, there are some people who have always felt that it resonated with them and they're still in the lifestyle, but it's so nice that they've been joined by so many others.
Yeah. And as we collectively come to this type of lifestyle, if this is in your family or in your community or in your partnership, I am pulling up your Instagram one more time. I'm just going to scroll down here, and I know I'm hearing your questions about the audio, and we're doing our very best, but just try to focus on what Jenna's saying. It's really great. I'm scrolling down here, and would you just pull out a couple, just you would say like that would be good for the small family gatherings that we're, hopefully going to have safely during this holiday season.
Oh, during the holidays. Yeah, of course. So, I mean, part of what you're seeing here are just some of my everyday eats here. So, you're seeing like a bagel with tofu scramble on it. That would be something I would throw together for breakfast any old time. This is a bagel with carrot lox that I got at actually a vegan deli in New York City. If you can believe it, there's an entire deli that specializes in vegan food. You'll see a hummus quesadilla. That is not meant
Is
to
it,
be an authentic or a realistic name at all. It's basically just me throwing some hummus between two tortillas and grilling it, and then slicing it up sort of as you would a quesadilla. And that's something that I make as a quick meal very often. But you can see a little further north on my Instagram page, you could see there was like a baked rigatoni dish that right
oh, yeah.
here. And this is the kind of thing that would be great for a family gathering. It's got sautéed eggplant, it's got tomato sauce, it's got some vegan ricotta cheese, which I make with tofu and cashews. So it has like a creamy component, and it's a perfect example of something hearty and really crowd pleasing that everyone can enjoy together.
I'm hungry.
I'm glad. That's what I'm trying to make you feel with these pictures.
Jenna, thanks so much. I just appreciate what you said about just that this is for everyone, and it's gone so mainstream, and it's like adapting and it's changing and it's morphing, and you're right in the middle of all of it. So that's why I wanted to bring you in today to have a little chat. The Full Helping is the Instagram handle. Thefullhelping.com is the website with the blog and all the recipes. I might, if you don't mind, Jenna, could I just pick one? Would you trust me to just pick one and share it on the Facebook page?
Of course.
Okay.
I would feel honored.
Thank you so much for joining us. I have to go cook now.
Excellent. So glad. Happy cooking. I hope you make something delicious, and thank you again for having me today.
Thank you so much, Gena Hamshaw from The Full Helping. Have a great day, everybody.